Stand by, everybody. Make sure our stream is getting set up here. Okay, great. Looks like we are rolling. Awesome. Turn that down. Hey, everybody, welcome to War Room Wednesday. Today is Automation Day. I've got Taylor on with us who's going to help us out today. Taylor, can you hear me okay? Make sure our audio is good.
Yes, sir. You hear me?
Yes, sir. Okay,
Excellent.
awesome. Thanks, everybody who's joining us today. I'm going to run through the agenda here, and then we'll have time at the end for some Q&A. So the automations of this platform are one of the great features, if you want to call it that. It's really more of an engine than it is a feature. It's kind of like saying, hey, here's a car. It doesn't come with an engine, right? That's an added feature. The automation side of TruePartnerAI is where a lot of the power really resides, and it's where it really starts to set itself apart from so many of the other platforms that are out there. So here's the thing is automations can get overwhelming for a lot of people. They can also get it's people don't understand maybe what's available, and so we're going to actually talk about a couple of those things because I want to make sure that the automations that are built into the system are ones that you can use and that you know how to customize them for your own business. Okay, so I got my notes right here to make sure we don't miss anything. So what we're going to talk about is just a couple of different types of automations that you can do in terms of tasks and communications. And then we're going to look at getting around a little bit, and hopefully we'll show you a few hacks, if you will. Then I'm going to show you some samples, and then, of course, walk through how you build your own or how you sketch that out, because that can be really, really useful. Okay, so let's just jump right in on really, there's a number of different types of automations, but they generally fit under the category of either tasks that need to be done, like housekeeping type things, or communication, right? So in ours, you'd be surprised how many tasks there are that you do in your business that really can be automated. And I'm going to give you an idea here of what that means. But a really great way to start with asking yourself what can be automated is by looking at things that you would do manually on a repetitive basis. Okay, anything that's repeated over and over and over again, and that could obviously that could include communication type tasks or anything like that. But let me just give you an example, something that's super, super simple. Okay. Let me share my screen here. And Taylor, if you end up not being able to see my screen, let me know.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, good. We're in our sample account here. We're going to spend, this is the area that we're spending our time in, okay? This is the area right here, the automation section. Um, you should have a bunch of pre-built automations in there already, okay? We've preloaded your system. If you don't have pre-built automations, then just let Taylor know and we'll make sure we get those installed. All right. But let's just take a look. You see here, I clicked on the folder database organization. All right. Now, one thing that a lot of businesses run into is just organizing their people. And when I talk to a lot of businesses, almost everybody has the same issue. They've got people all over the place. They've got them in fulfillment software. They've got them in phones. They've got them in sticky notes, all of that kind of thing. And so the organization, if you've ever started running a campaign and you haven't organized your database in a while, then it takes a little bit of front end work to build up that database, segment your lists, and get everything set up, right? So the reason why I bring that up is this is something that is ongoing. Okay, so you can organize your database today, but if it doesn't stay organized or your workflows aren't staying in organized fashion, then you're going to be in the same boat, just a few months from now, right? Okay. So if you want, so checking here, here's just a few automations that are super, super simple. Okay. Um, but they do things that uh, will save you a ton of time and will help you get everything organized. Okay. So this one's really, really simple. I just want to give you an idea. Okay. So I'm not saying that you have to do all this kind of stuff, but what I want you to do is start thinking of what do I need to do and what am I doing repetitively that could be automated. Okay. So look at this. This is a one-step automation. Um, and all it does is it takes a whole bunch of people and assigns them to a particular user. All right. So this is really useful if you have members on your team and you have contacts that come in that don't get assigned to a user. So the reason how this would be beneficial is if you've got an account rep or if you're assigned, you're a loan officer on a team or whatever, you always want to assign a user, or sorry, you want to assign a contact to a user. And a lot of times contacts will come in and they won't get assigned. And so when you go through your filtering and you're filtering by user, then they won't show up, or your email signatures will just be blank, things like that. So this is just a really simple. I mean, just look how one step. Oh my gosh, this is so easy. All we're doing is we're just assigning this person to a user or these people. So then you can go through and select everybody that's in that boat and run them into that automation. And then you're not sitting there going one off, boink, boink. Oh, I got to assign this guy to a user. I mean, what if you have 1,000 people in your database? You do not have time to go and assign everybody. Okay. So that's just a very, very, very simple automation, but it's one of those things that can take so much time that you would never get to it. So again, this is what the reason I bring this one up. This is one I'm sure you've never thought of. Is I want you to think of, oh, how can I organize my database? Ooh, and can I get the system to do it for me? The answer is almost always yes, by the way. Okay.
So
Now
real
this one
quick,
is another simple. Sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
just you want to show how those are triggered?
Yeah, we'll do that in just a minute.
Okay,
How
awesome.
to add people to the automations. Yep, for
Okay, cool.
sure. So, because there's a couple of different ways. Okay, this one came up with a client this week, and a very common question and a very important question, actually. This is the pipeline view in automations, okay, and under the opportunities. And the question was, can I automate communication or tasks or whatever when a contact moves through the stages of a pipeline? Okay, the answer is yes. So what I've got here is I'm showing a typical pipeline for a mortgage loan. Okay, this is a sales pipeline. It's not, if you see this, is not necessarily an online leads pipeline. Now, as you might not know this, but TruePartner AI allows you to have multiple pipelines, unlimited pipelines. Okay, so because each one's going to be a little bit different, this is an online lead pipeline. Online leads are going to go in a little bit different format than somebody that comes in, say, through a referral, right? So the deal pipeline is when a contact already wants to talk, right? Or wants to have that conversation and is ready to get into your sales process. So these are all very customizable. You can set your stages up whatever you want, super easy. But just so you can see, this is a very typical setup for any type of prospect, right? They want to talk. In other words, yes, they're raising their hand. They want an appointment. And then once the appointment is complete, that means you've talked to them on the phone and they're screened. What's the next step? Well, on the mortgage side, the next step is once I've talked to that individual on the phone, I want them to do a loan application, right? So what's that next move? Okay, so I've got them screened. Do we have an application? No, we don't. Or yes, we do. Once the application's in, have they been pre-approved? Yes, they're pre-approved and looking, and then they're finally converted to an active loan. Okay, so this is a very typical sales process. Whatever you're doing, your labels might be a little bit different, but that's very common with appointment style prospecting and sales. Okay, so let's just take Lisa Simpson here. Wink. Um, and let's say that Lisa came in as a referral and says, hey, I want to chat. So she goes in this pipeline. You end up giving Lisa a call, and Lisa says, I want to buy a house, and you want to get pre-approved. So you walk through that pre-approval process on the phone, pre-qualification, I should say, and find that sounds like Lisa's good to go. We just need to get a loan out. So she's been screened. So it's the second that you're done, you put her over in the screen column. Now, this movement right here is what can trigger an automation. So you're going to ask yourself, what do I normally do when I'm off the phone on that appointment? What's that next step, right? So what typically happens is you may be texting somebody to say, oh, here's the loan app link. You might send them an email. Hey, thanks for the conversation today. Here's a link to the loan application. Start gathering these documents. All of these things that are very, very typical that you do all the time, every time you get off the phone the first time, right? Again, this can be with anybody, but this is a real, very, very typical setup. Okay, so if we go back to our automations, in fact, let's do this. By the way, just a little hint here. I use this button all the time. So this will list them out, but I list my most recent, especially if you're getting a lot of automations, then your pages will start building up and you'll be like, oh man, shoot, which was the one I just worked on? Well, click on this little button right here, that recent. That helps so much. Just another little thing to save you time today, right? And we're all about that. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. So this is from scratch, all right? So let me just show you how this could work. So this is a totally blank automation. So we went to the pipeline, all right? Now, we've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. I clicked on trigger, all right? Now, the trigger is what will spin this automation up into working, okay? And there's a couple of different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you an automated trigger. Okay, so take a look at all this. Any one of these things can trigger this automation, right? Which is really pretty cool. If you start going through what can trigger an automation, like, oh, wow, okay, there we go. So check this out. Here's one right here. Pipeline stage changed. Okay. So what's going to trigger our automation? Pipeline stage has changed, and you can name it whatever you want. Let's say changed to screened. Let's add a filter, and it's going to say, what pipeline are you talking about? It's the deal pipeline. See how they all show up there? I'm going to add one more filter. The pipeline stage changes to screened. Okay, great. That's our trigger. So just a quick review. Anybody in the deal pipeline that moves, you remember that we moved the little tile, moves to screened, that's going to spin this automation up. Okay, great. So there's our trigger. So what's our first action? Well, maybe we want to send them an email. Okay. And on your email, you'll want to type whatever you want to type. So what would you typically send after this stage, right? So usually we call them by name. Here's a link to the application, right? Plus whatever else you want to put in there. Okay. The full email, da, da, da. You put who it's from the emails, from the subject. And by the way, just so you know, if multiple users, this is a little side note. But if you have multiple people on your team and you're using the same automations, this is why you want them assigned to a user, right? Because now you can put in the username, the user email, and it will come from the individual on the team. Right there, that's what I would use, okay? Right? So that way you don't have to duplicate all of that, right? So kind of cool. In fact, you can even do that down here at the bottom. signature, and that would put their email signature just like that. So anyway, that's a little side note, combining those two automations just to give you a little hack there. So there's tons of little hacks here in this platform, just so you know. There's just little cool things. So that's why we like doing these classes, because then you can see what's actually, what you didn't know, right? Okay, cool. So we want to send that email. Oh, let's do a little app link. We'll just put that in there. Great. And if you have templates, you can throw them in there. That works great too. All right. So check it out. Very simple automation, but anytime that pipeline stage gets changed to screen, it's going to send them an email. Now, if you've got your texting set up too, you can also send them a text. And a lot of times I'll just search, by the way, in that window, or you can browse through. But if I know what I'm going to do, I'll search. So I'll send them a text, and then we'll put our message in, et cetera, et cetera. You get it. Okay. All right. So now when that's all set to go, there's a couple of different things that you want to check just to make sure you're good to go and that you don't have mistakes that end up emailing somebody a million times. So, by the way, which I've done, and by the way, which you'll probably do. So whenever you get automations going, something sooner or later you're going to have something that goes a little bit haywire, and maybe the wrong person will get an email, or maybe an autoresponder didn't fire off just how you wanted, or something like that. And you know what? People don't generally tend to care unless you drop like a million emails in one box, or you text them. Actually, I have to say I was using about 4 or 5 years ago. I was using a totally different texting system, as before this platform was out, and it had a massive delay on it. Like if you send out a text through the system, it would send it about a half hour later. So I didn't know they were going out, and I put my own name on the list just so I could monitor and test it. And it was for something really dumb too. I think we were doing like a bowling event for clients or something like that. And so it was, just, hey, we're starting in a half hour. Are you still coming? That kind of text. And I sent it out to like, um, I don't know, like probably 50 people. And then but then it wasn't coming through. I'm like, shoot, it's not working. So well, let me test it. So I ran it again. Shoot, it's not coming through. And then, oh, shoot, it's not. So I did it like 4 times, but I didn't realize that there was this delay on this texting system, at least the way it was set up, and which we do not have on this, by the way, thank goodness. But so we were at the bowling event, and people were still getting the texts. They're like, dude, can you get off me? Like, you are really texting. Anyway, so fortunately, we don't have those delays. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to avoid some of that too, because it's always good to test, right? Okay. So let me show you actually one quick thing too on it. I realize this is so simple, but let's say um, that if let's say that you don't want people getting hit with the same email. So let's say that tile gets moved back and forth, kind of like what I just did with Lisa Simpson. Well, maybe you don't want them getting the email every single time it moves to that tile. So under the settings here, you can allow a couple of things, where you can either allow re-entry, which means that they can get that automation more than once. The default is they only can go in once, by the way, to kind of save you there. And then I use this one a lot for the longer workflows. If somebody replies, then I will turn on that, because that will stop the workflow, right? So usually if they're replying, usually it's because they have a question about something, or it's something where I would take it down more of a manual path. Okay. So we go back to the builder. You could also do, if you wanted to send them another email the next day, you could do the same thing. You could wait the next day. You also can make sure that it doesn't go out. The email doesn't hit them at like 4 in the morning, whatever you want to do there. Okay. So there's a wait there. Sorry, I'm moving kind of fast. I'll usually label it so I know what's going on. And then, you add your next, maybe a text, right? So thanks for chatting. here's, or I sent the link, sent the app link in your email, right? So again, the purpose of this is just to show you how all of these automations can just take care of the repeated tasks that you have every day. And when you see the repeated tasks that you have and how they start stacking up, you're going to be really thankful that, oh my gosh, the system's just doing it for me. This is awesome. And if they don't respond, we actually can get into this a little bit deeper. You can make, in fact, maybe Taylor, maybe I'll have you just do a quick explanation on this. This is a little side note on the tech side, but I want you to know what's possible. You can take hyperlinks and make them what they call trigger links. And that will track whether or not the recipient clicked on that link in the email. Okay, Taylor, can you explain that real quick? What that's
Yeah,
for?
so exactly. Yeah. So if you have like we'll use the example of like a lead interested in a particular, hey, we want you to click on this link, watch this online class sort of thing. And we're sending them, they've submitted, we use an automation to send them an email with that link in it. And we obviously want them to click and watch the class. The automations have this option where using that trigger link, you can opt to follow up with them in a certain amount of time if they haven't clicked that link. And they say, hey, did you get the email? Want to remind you, go check this thing out. Or and when they do click the link, then it can do anything else from just stop the automation or send them a different email. Hey, thanks for watching. Can we answer any questions? So you can apply little conditional branches, they call them, to the whether or not the contact that's in the automation has interacted with that trigger link.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in a practical application, what you could do here is you could create a, I would say app link, and we would, this is not how you do it, by the way, but then you would actually throw it in as a trigger link. So I hope you saw that click right there. I don't have it installed on this side, but, and then like Taylor is saying, if they don't click on that link, you know that they didn't do the online loan app. So then you can have the automation send them another link, if that makes sense. Or sorry, another email. Hey, just notice you haven't filled out the application. Hey, just notice you haven't filled out the application. So again, it's those things that you would do manually, but become really, really difficult because you're busy and you're scaling, right? So if you have to chase down, if you've got 10 of these that come in one day, how can you possibly chase each one of them down and make sure they, got their link, make sure they had questions answered, make sure they're getting that follow-up, right? So anyway, we didn't really necessarily mean to go down the trigger link thing, but that's something that you can Google. It's very easy to do, those trigger links, and then what you can do with the trigger links afterwards, okay? But again, I don't want you to get too caught up in all of that just yet because, unless you're ready, because I don't want the overwhelm, all right? I just want you to know what you can do and start thinking through more of what your manual actions are, and then build your automation framework over that, right? That's really just what we're talking about. Okay. So now a couple other quick things on this. I always will test. Okay. So when you test, you can pick, I usually put myself in here and then you run the test, and then it will send the email. It will send the text to that contact. So that's why I put myself, because I want to see what those emails look like when they come through. I want to make sure the links are working. I want to make sure that the tests are working, the texts are working, and that everything's right. So, because I will say, and it still happens all the time. Get your email all set up, and then just make sure you send it to yourself so you can see what it looks like. Because even now, man, I sent an email out, I don't know, to a list, a little while back, and darn it, I'm like, this one looks good. I used it from a template. I was in a hurry. I didn't test it, and came through, and the parameters on the image were totally stretched. Now, look, nobody cares. It was better to send the email, but still, it looked dumb. And I was like, oh, shoot. It just had stretched my image really tall inside the email. So just send it to yourself, take that extra step, and that's going to save you a lot of work. Okay. So
You
once it's,
do you
yeah,
do have the option in each individual step, like email and SMS, to send a test from there. So you don't necessarily have to run the entire test workflow
yeah,
if you don't want
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah, right down here. Yep. Then you can just send it to whoever you want, right? Boom, send a test email. And then you can check and make sure that everything's looking right. Oh, by the way, if you are using these fillers on the tests, because it's not assigned to a contact, it won't fill this out. It will just be blank on your tests. Okay. So that's one thing I've noted that you want to set. So by the time it's all said and done, once you've got everything set to go, then you will want to test it. So and by the way, when you do test, you're like, man, I'm testing this email, but I don't want to wait for a day. So you can go in here and it'll show where the person is, and you can force it to the next, right? It can force you to the next step. So without having to wait, like, okay, that email worked, bam, 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 right? Okay. So just play around in this. You're not going to really mess things up, especially if you have everything on draft mode. Okay. So put everything on draft mode. It starts that way default, and then just test it, make sure it works. When you do one, like you'll be like, oh, this is great. You'll totally get the flow of it. Okay. So then you always save. And then when it's ready to roll, if you're like, how come my workflow is not triggering? Well, usually it's because I forgot to publish it. At least I do. So it's funny how, it's one of those things. I've done this a million times and yet still have to remind myself, oh yeah, go through, publish it, make sure we're good. Okay. Um, Let me show you actually just a couple of others, um, just to give you an idea of what's out there. Okay. This one is a live workflow with a client right now. And this one's a very simple one, but it does a lot of cool stuff. You can see people are in it already. Okay, so this one's live and rolling. This one is a Facebook lead follow-up sequence. Okay, so it is creating, so basically, background, people are on Facebook, they see an ad, they click, I'm interested in whatever the ad is offering. And Facebook will capture their information because truthfully, they already have their information and say, boom, this person is interested in your offer. So this is a real estate team that's running this one. They're running house ads, but you can run whatever offer you want. Okay, and what you're trying to do is capture people that are interested. So this works very, very well for retail. We've got this great offer. If you want to get in on this offer, click here. But you don't have to have a landing page or anything. It's very, very simple. The Facebook lead form, okay? Because Facebook will just capture, they already have the information, and then we'll tag them and say, great, I've got name, phone number, and email address of this individual who's interested in the offer that was on the ad, okay? So Facebook ends it there. And what you have to do as a Facebook administrator is go in and look at all the leads that have come in, their name, phone number, and email. And then you got to text them, call them, email them manually, right? Which, if you've run Facebook lead ads before, you know that that's almost impossible because you might get 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 a day, depending on what your ad spend is. And this one right here, they're getting about 4 per day. And I think they're getting about $3.75 a lead. Okay. Just so you know, which is really, really great. So it's a great ad and it's capturing. I think this one's generated 190 leads in a couple of months. So this is a great ad. By the way, if you want to talk about what that ad looks like and how simple it is, then we can do that later. Just hit me up. Okay. But anyway, the point is Facebook ends it. Once they capture the data, Facebook ends it. and you got to go do it. The cool thing is TruePartnerAI will automatically connect with Facebook, and Facebook will send that information over to TruePartnerAI immediately, which is really awesome. Okay. So here's the trigger. Facebook lead form submitted. There it is right there. We picked out the right form. That's all it is. Okay. And what happens? Let's just walk through what happens. First thing is it drops this person in a pipeline. Okay. Just like I showed you back here. Let's actually go back and look at that so you can see. So it would drop them in something like this. Okay. So you got the pipeline. Sorry about that. Clicking all over the place. So it, boom, just in, right now, it names it, it gives it its source, and then gives it its status. Great. So already this one little step, I mean, think about this. I know this sounds so silly, but this one little step, hey, I got a Facebook lead ad. I have their name, phone number, and email address. Oh, I need to go put that in my CRM so I can follow up. So you go over there. I mean, think about the manual work, name, phone number, even if you're, copying and pasting. Okay, great. Oh, now I've got to make an opportunity. I don't want them just a contact. I want them in my pipeline because they're a lead, right? So this does this automatically. Wham, just in one shot. Okay, just saves all that time. It tells, excuse me, it tells the team member, the owner, that a lead just came in. It tags them so we know which campaign it came from, and then it assigns it to the right user. Okay. So all of these things, these first 4 steps are all just simple organization steps. But think about how much time that saves, and think about how you don't even have to go to Facebook to see the lead where they came in from. It's just right there, bam, already in your system. Okay. Then as soon as it comes in, it sends them a text. It waits for an email, and then, or sorry, it waits for a couple minutes, and then it sends them an email with the information that they were looking for. So the text is the immediate, hey, this is so-and-so with the so-and-so, right? You guys know what so-and-so means? Anyway, that means that's like a variable. Although when you're programming stuff, you don't ever see so-and-so. But anyway, hey, this is Bill with the real estate team. I have, you message me about this. I'm going to send you an email that has a bunch of information. What questions can I answer? Okay. Then the next, after a couple of minutes, another text comes through that says, okay, I just sent you that email. Let me know if you didn't get it. What are the questions you have? Or whatever your sales dialogue is. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm getting so excited. Anyway, okay. So then it waits. It'll wait 1 more minute, and then it'll send them another email to ask them a question. So, right, that speed thing is so critical in responding to leads, and it's almost impossible without a back-end system to do it on these types of leads. Okay, then you can see how this goes. It waits until the next day. It sends them another email. It waits till the next day. Sends them another text. Waits for the next day, and then sends them here. Okay, now this is a pretty simple email sequence or contact sequence, but they're getting contacted right out of the gate. And if we take a look at the settings here, then it will stop on response. And then it also restricts them from getting those here between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Because truthfully, sometimes people are on their phones in the middle of the night, and they may click on a link and submit their stuff or submit their information. And, I want that spinning up during business hours. Okay. You don't have to, but you can. All right. This will show you some enrollment history, right? It'll show you where everybody's at, which is pretty cool. And then, and this will show you, well, all of the execution and where's everybody at in the execution stage. So Taylor, any insights on this really quick before we move on?
I have one insight on just using filters. I could throw that in now or at any point you want.
Yep, throw it in.
Okay, so the I think this applies mostly to triggers. Um, like in the pipeline trigger we talked about just a step ago, and the trigger is pipeline opportunity stage. The thing about filters is if you don't add a filter, it will trigger the workflow when any pipeline has an opportunity change. Just anything in the system happens that matches um, that action. So I found one the other day, an automation that was getting triggered. It was like a form submitted trigger, and any form that was getting submitted was triggering the automation so that the person got the email and the text instead of just the form that we wanted them to get the text from. So that's just an important note on filters there is it will just if you don't have a filter, it will default to absolutely anything that occurs in the system that looks like that.
Okay, so just to recap, so we know what you're talking about. We went back to the pipeline. If I don't have these filters in, and it says pipeline stage changed, then if even though I've got it named to screen, in fact, let's just delete that because that could. So any change in the pipeline at all without any filters is going to trigger the automation. That's what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. And that could be, and if you've got four different pipelines, and it's set up like this, any stage change in any of those pipelines will trigger the automation. So check your filters. And that's one huge step to just making sure that the right people enter the right automations when you want them to.
Yep, perfect. Perfect. And by the way, so your filters are right here. Um, and they're actually pretty easy. You can even search, and you can do a lot of different things with these filters, incidentally. So go in and, when you have some time, go in and play around like, oh man, I didn't realize, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I can do custom fields, who they were referred by. Ooh, what do I want to have happen, right? So there's a lot of different things that those filters can do. And that's underneath the main um, the workflow triggers. Okay. So, okay, that's a really great heads up because you don't want everybody getting emails and texts whenever anybody moves in a pipeline. So just good heads up, test your or check your filters, right? I look, a lot of this actually can start out and feel overwhelming. So that's why I always recommend just start with something simple. Even if it's just a one email when a pipeline stage changes, or even just a one email when a Facebook lead comes in, right? Or just whatever it is. There's so many different things that you can do. Just start out with it really simple if you're building from scratch. And then if you want to get more elaborate, you can always send them to another pipeline. Okay. So what this one, you see how this one ends. This one doesn't go on forever, right? This is just the initial. So we could build this one out and have it go on forever and have it keep emailing stuff for 6 months, right? Um, but what this one does is this actually sends over to a different system that will actually send new listing alerts, right? In that particular setup. So anyway, um, a lot of different ways to do it, but usually what a pretty good way to do it is to have a very simple workflow and maybe set up another simple workflow because you can have it move over to another workflow, right? Another automation when it's done. So, fact. See this little guy right here? Add to workflow. And let's say you want to, I'm just going to put that one in there. So look at this one. Now, if we hit the end, it'll send it over to another workflow. Very simple. Okay. I'll delete that since that's a live one. Okay. I'm going to show you one more quick one just to give you an idea of what can happen. Anytime somebody comes into the system, we're using Facebook as an example, but anytime somebody comes into the system, it can be calls, it can be emails, it can be text, it can be messages from across the social media spectrum there. You can trigger workflows, okay? So this one is Facebook Messenger, and all this workflow is it's for one of those campaigns where you're not actually looking for Facebook leads, but you're saying something like, "Hey, send me a direct message in Facebook with the word discount, and I will get you X," right? So you've seen those before. Again, you don't have to do these campaigns. I'm not saying that this is the right campaign, marketing campaign for you necessarily. I'm just showing how they work. Okay. So Facebook Messenger, customer replied on Facebook Messenger right here, right? And it contains the phrase discount. So you could make this whatever you want. But if they message you with the word discount, then what happens? Well, guess what? This will go out to their Facebook channel and ask for their email address. Okay. It will wait and check. And now these are conditional branches. And this is what I want you to show to show you because there's a little bit of logic that you can start building out too. Again, don't get overwhelmed, but did they give the email? No, they didn't. All right. Ask for the email again. Basically, repeat of up above. Wait and check. Wait for 30 seconds. Did they give the email? Nope. Ask for the email again. You see how this is just a repeat? Um, did they give the email? No. Okay. Well, that's as many times as we're going to ask. All right. So this looks a little bit more elaborate, but it's actually just a repeat over and over. If they did give the email, then now you can throw it in, you tag it, send them an email, send them another Facebook message, and then put them in the pipeline. That's all that does. So, but now if you can actually have one of the other workflows, by the way, just to give you an example, is tag. And this one's really awesome. So if the tag gets added to whatever, if they're a Facebook lead, I'm just going to save that. Then that will trigger that automation too. That just gives you an idea, right? Of other triggers. I'm not saying do that on this campaign or anything like that, but you can do multiple things. So if somebody adds a tag, or if a tag automatically gets added from this, then maybe you've got another sequence that emails them. Okay. And that one would get triggered by adding the tag. And if you don't want that, then you can delete them, no problem, right? Okay. Okay, I do want to show you one other thing, by the way, on this. So before we get to that one other thing, take a look at, go in, mess around, okay? Um, Google the workflows. You want to just Google high-level workflow ideas. They're all over the place, and some will be extremely elaborate, to be honest with you. In fact, they're going to be too elaborate. That's my opinion. They're going to be too elaborate. You know, you get some tech guys in there and they just and they build everything out. I found that most don't want to get into that deep because you're not techie. You just want stuff that works and works right out of the box, essentially, right? So I'm going to show you this. You do not have to have any workflow triggers. Actually, let's show you on this one. Let's say we want to just delete all of our workflow triggers. So here's a nice little automation. It's just sitting there. And what's it going to do? It's not going to do anything unless people get put in the trigger. Now, let me show you why you might use that. And this one might be, actually, let's go back. I'm going to just give you a different one. No, that's fine. Save it. Let's go back to this little guy right here. Quick text and email. So let's say that you want to send off a simple text and a simple email and followed up by an email. Actually, oops, sorry. Clicking all over the place. Right? So we're going to send a simple text and a simple email. Oh, I might send this to you guys today. Thanks for coming to the Webby. And then, oh, look, how's Georgia? That might be for James. Okay, so anyway, a simple text, a simple email. Because what might this be? Now you might want to move these around or add another one. Doesn't matter. But this might be for a simple promotion. It might be for a simple heads up. It might be, hey, I just sent you a quick email. Check it out and respond when you can. So something like, it's the end of the year. Are you looking to buy a home this next year? Any kind of offer, any kind of move, right? Anything that you would want to send to referral partners, for example. I'm teaching this class. I sent you an email. Make sure you click on the link. Can you come? Or whatever the case may be. You get it, right? I mean, a million different versions. I found that this one gets used a lot. But notice how there's no workflow triggers, okay? So let's look at how we would get people into that workflow. All right, very, very simple. So let's get this over to our contacts. There we go. All right. So let's say, let's use realtors, for example. Realtors are a great example of referral partners, right? So every business has referral partners, but in the real estate mortgage space, especially, you've got people that refer business and you want to market to them, right? So I've created a smart list here inside the contacts, very easy to do. And now let's say that I want them to get my simple text and email that I just put together. And maybe it's just inviting them to something, right? So all I do is select everybody. If it's a long list, it'll tell you, ask if you want to select them all. And look at this little guy right here. Add to the campaign or to the workflow. Okay. And then it's going to ask which one. Quick text and email, that one. You describe what it is, and then you add it. And then guess what? Everybody's going to get that text. Everybody's going to get that email, right? And then if you want to do a voicemail drop or whatever you add to that, this is for one-off. So there's no automation trigger on that one. It's just for the, oh my gosh, we had something change in a major way. Low rates, some promotion that just got where you want to send multiple messages, either in an email or a text or both. Then that's how you do it. But there's no trigger. It's just going off to your database. Okay. That's really simple. That's how you do that. And that's why you would have some that don't have triggers, because you want to add them automatically in a one-off fashion, depending on what you're doing. Okay. All right. How are we doing so far? Oh, we're running out of time here. So I'm going to show you one more thing, okay? And then we want to get to the Q&A for sure. So hopefully this isn't too overwhelming. Again, just really take some time when you have some time and just kind of work through it. But I'm going to show you a little trick that's going to help with this. All right. Okay. See my screen there okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. I'm just going to show you a very simple way to map out some automations, okay? And honestly, this isn't a bad idea to do whether you have software or not, because I find that most businesses don't even, you won't think through this very often. It's just kind of at random, okay? So here's what we want. Let's say that you want someone to go from point A to point Z, like a new customer. So the question would be, okay, what happens if somebody comes in as, let's just use that Facebook lead as an example. Okay. Facebook lead. So I would write that. And what would I want to have happen? Well, down here, I want them to become a customer. So I'm just going to put contract. Okay. That means buy. That means whatever. It locks them up. So here, they're simply a lead. So this is really a contract. They buy or whatever the case may be. Down here is the destination, right? So this would be a classic sales process where we're doing lead generation up here. But the sales process, all in here, is converting that person to what? A customer. Customer, there we go. Right, so that's sales pro. I'm not even sure you can read that, so maybe this isn't even useful. So what is the absolute perfect thing that would happen? Well, they would come in, I would get the lead, and what would happen to them? I would get a text, I would text them, and maybe I would email them, and then they would buy. So that's the flow. That's a perfect world. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So if they came in, what would I say? And we're not even thinking in terms of software. We're thinking only in terms of what would you do in your sales process. And it's actually better to think of it outside of software altogether, because this is where your expertise totally comes in. You know what you would say to customers. And by the way, this could be anything. Maybe it's a referral, maybe it's a phone call, a walk-in, whatever. So walk in. Okay, you get it. So walk in. What would you do with that person when they interface with you and your company to help convert them to a customer? That's really the question that you're asking, right? So typically, it's not this simple. If you're lucky, you'll get a referral and you talk to them and they become a customer. That's awesome. Typically, if they call on the phone or you call them or whatever, um, that would be awesome if they go right to becoming a customer. But a lot of times they don't. So what are you doing in between this space here to help them along the path to convert them to a customer, right? So that's where you mark this out. So, I would text them and okay, and what am I after here? I'm after who I really want to talk to them on the phone. So really an appointment. So we can see if we're a good match, see if what I've got will actually help them. And then after I talk to them on the phone, then I usually, let's say in the case of the mortgage, we'll send an app link, right? And then I will get the app and pre-approve and then go to contract, right? So those steps. Okay. So as you walk through this, you say, okay, now if I'm emailing them manually, what am I going to say? If I text them, what do I say? Right? I'm helping them along the path. Usually it's to get if they come in digitally, I want that a phone appointment. That's what I'm after. Or if it's a referral, it might be the same thing. Sometimes referrals just come in on a napkin, right? So it might be the same thing. I'm texting, emailing. Okay, cool. So I go down that list. Awesome. This is what I say. This is where I use my skills, my knowledge, my expertise, and I help them get what they're looking for, right? And then I help convert them along the path. Great. So now this is where we say, okay, do they reply? So you send them a text. Did they reply to set up an appointment? Yes, they scheduled the appointment, but we'll say no. Then what would you do again? Well, the next day you would text them again, right? And then did they reply? So it's really just what you do. So I know this looks really, really messy. Sometimes I'll just whiteboard it. Sometimes I'll get the yellow pad. But just write down everything that you do. There's two reasons for this. Once you have this written down and you've got this put together, how you like it, and how you know that works, there's two things that happen. You can now automate much of this, and you're not having to sit down in front of the computer and think, okay, how do I want to send him a text? Yeah, sure, send him a text. Well, how long? I don't know. So it's actually what you do, because you want to overlay your automations onto what you do with your expertise right out of the gate. Okay. So that makes it very, very simple. Same thing with the phone call. You could go down the list. Okay. So somebody calls in phone And what do we want? We want them to become a customer. So now what happens? Okay, well, I usually send this info. I usually, there's always a process. Every single one of you have a process. So just map out that process in the easiest form, right? So A to Z. And then I will map out the options. Put that here. So I sent the info. Great. Did they become a customer? No. Okay, now what would I do? Well, I would follow up with them. How would I follow up with them? I'd probably send them another email the next day. Hey, did you get what I sent you? Did they respond? No. Okay. Well, maybe it's getting a little bit more maybe it's getting a little bit more dicey. We got to get urgent on this. Hey, we got to get your paperwork done, right? So then I'm going to send them a text. Did they reply? No. Okay. Well, I'm going to create a task now to call because now I really do need to step in. I've got my referral partner all over me that wants me to get that person taken care of and they're not responding. Okay. So, did we get the app? Yes. Great. What about the other stuff? Right. So but I always do minimum viable first as if it's perfect world. Okay. You want to go perfect world. So we'll do referral. You get the idea, right? Referral and customer. So I talked on the phone, and guess what? They became a customer. But these are the steps. Can they become a customer without talking on the phone? You have to decide that. Okay, now what are the steps in between and did they do them? And then you can just build your automation out from there. Okay. Makes sense? But I do it like this. It looks messy. But it's so helpful. Just draw it out. What's every possible path that the customer can take to get to, or the prospect can take to become a customer? And now I can automate some of it. Some of it I want to keep manual, those types of things. And then your automations will be much more easy because it's just going to be who you are. And then the cool thing about doing this, by the way, is then you have more of an ironclad system in your business. And then if you have or you have new employees, you say, this is what we do. This is our manual every time a customer comes in, right? Or a prospect comes in. So that's how you get a lot of we're going down a rabbit hole here, but that's how you get a lot of randomness out of your business. All right, Taylor, any insights on that?
It's all nice and straightforward. Really helps, especially with someone like me when I get into looking at the automation stuff. I'm like, ooh, look at all this stuff I can do. And I'm like, oh, I just gone down all kinds of different holes. Now I'm just buried in half finished things, and none of it actually works right. But like mapping out is a huge benefit, way to keep everything organized, make sure it all works properly, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's what you would do. It getting into the weeds gets really, really exciting. You look at this like, oh, cool, I can send them a text, I can send them an email. Wait, would I actually send them a text? Have I found that works at that stage? No, actually, no. What I would normally do is, and then that's what you want to automate. It's just like, hey, would I send them a text at 4 in the morning? No, I'm not going to send them a text at 4 in the morning. Okay, well, I'll just put that little parameter on there to keep it from going out that early, right? So, and if you don't get it perfect, it's not going to, here's the other thing. Listen, most most businesses are not good at follow-up. And this helps solve that problem. Because follow-up is difficult. It's not that nobody wants to do it. It's, you're in the middle of helping somebody right now, and you've got 3 leads that haven't done what they're supposed to do. You don't have time to sit and go follow up with them. That ends up being the reality of this situation. So everybody feels guilty because they're like, oh man, I'm so crappy at follow up. But listen, it's just how it is. You're not going to go, step away from a really important customer who's sitting there with you to go talk to 3 potential leads to see if they did what you asked them to do. It's just not going to happen. So that's why we want to have these automations that can help help move things along. And by the way, the automations can be very, very impressive to people too. They like, oh man, you're on it. That's awesome. You're not scrambling. You're really taking care of things. Okay. Well, we covered quite a bit. Let's do some Q&A. Do we have any Taylor, you've got a couple of questions I think that have come in from the past. And anybody that's on the call today have any questions? Let's start with that. Do. Okay, cool. If you've got questions, just jump in and throw them in the chat if you want to, whatever. Taylor, what do you have?
First, just basic. Does running automations cost anything extra on top of the platform fee?
No. It's built right in. It's built right in. So again, one of the best. It's let's go out to this one. It's one of the best parts of this whole platform is the automation. This is very much enterprise corporate level power at an unbelievable price. I think Salesforce to get this level of automation will charge $50,000 a year to get it to this level. So it can be very, very, I could be off on that. That's just what I heard. But so anyway, yeah, it can be very, it doesn't cost extra. Where you will incur some costs if you're running a lot of SMS, there's always that little teeny fraction of a penny charge per text and per email. So, but that's to beat, by the way, that's to not charge you for the number of users. Most platforms will charge you per the number of users, which doesn't make sense, even if they sit dormant. So you don't want to, I mean, you don't, I think Active Campaign, I mean, by the time we had 2,500 users inside of Active Campaign at one point, we were paying like $230 a month. And that was just basically for email. So let's see, James, is it possible to have different database for users? Yeah, so let me show you where that setting is, okay? Um, Good old Clancy Wiggum. It's under your user permissions in the settings in My Staff, and then only assigned data right there. Okay. So if they only see their assigned data, then they'll only see those that are assigned to them. Okay. Does that make sense? So they'll only see their own pipelines. They will only see the people that they are assigned as users. That's actually a great dovetail question to our very first automation where I was assigning users. This is where that comes in, because you don't want users that are out there floating, or sorry, you don't want contacts floating around unattached if you've got team members. Okay. Let me see if I can show you a quick example of that right here. So you go into the contact, and you see how this says unassigned? It's a little bit hidden there. So you probably have a bunch of people that are unassigned. If you don't have big, I mean, if you've got multiple team members, then you definitely want to get them assigned. And then you set that parameter under the settings in My Staff. Okay. All right, Susan. Okay. Okay, so how are we attaching? Susan, you're asking about integration. When you first set the system up, is that when Facebook is attached to TruePartner? Is that how a lead from Facebook comes in? So there's a couple of steps to that, integrating it with Facebook. And I think this one actually is not integrated, so I can show you right here. Perfect. So on your Launchpad, you also can go to settings and integrations, and you can connect, okay? So this is where you go in and connect it to Facebook. You're logged in as your personal self because your personal profile is attached to your business profiles. And then once the business profiles are attached, that's when you can actually do a lot of the marketing in your social planner. See that right here? You can manage your social accounts once they're integrated. And then when the leads come in, it will automatically when you create a Facebook form in Facebook, then it will automatically tell TruePartner that there is a form that can be utilized. Okay. There's a couple of steps to that. And I think actually, Taylor, if we don't have a video on how to do that, we should put one together. There's just a couple of steps. It's pretty easy to do. But you definitely want to make sure you have the right steps. But the Facebook lead forms are really great because you don't even have to have funnel pages. You just click them and go. So, but yeah, Susan, that's under integration. All right, Taylor, next question.
Um, Say you have an erroneous workflow, you can remove people from it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so you have something going down. So, and believe me, I've done a few where, oh shoot, you know. Let's go to this one really quick. So if something's really like, oh my gosh, that's not what I intended on the workflow, what I'll do is I will just turn it off. I'll put it right in draft mode so it stops firing, right? And then you can go to the enrollment history. They'll show up right in here, and then you can actually throw people out. You can end the workflow on them. So that answer
There is
that
also
question?
an option. Yeah, there is also an option in the when you go back to the builder and you see each steps when people are enrolled and you see the little tag like they're like
Let's
the
do.
little number one, you can manually remove people on a one at a time basis from individual steps as well. So you do have a decent amount of control over what's going on.
See that's right there. So that's a one-off, which is very good. Okay. So this is a Facebook lead came in, so we can move that person along, or we can put them in, just take them out of the workflow. Okay, great. Any other questions on that, Taylor? Or other questions?
All the questions I had to be asked, you have answered quite nicely.
Okay, awesome. Okay, anybody, any other questions? I hope this was helpful today. Okay, Susan, you're partway there. So, okay, Susan, yeah, let's take a look at your email. Oh yeah, actually, James, thanks for coming today, brother. It's good to see you. Um, yeah, Taylor, I think you and I, or Taylor, you reached out to Susan's company, worked with Steve on that. They had a few that got sent to the
Mhm.
spam. Yep.
Yeah, if that's still happening, hit me up. We can go through further stuff. There are a couple different things you can do. One thing with automations, I think this is just a good bit of information for everybody involved. If you have an automation that is sending to your entire database, like a campaign, if at all possible, you want to use the option to add in drip mode, which I believe is where when you demonstrated adding your contacts to the automation, you want to add them in drip mode so it trickles them in because the bots that police the internet sometimes get a little peeved by just mass email blasts, especially on email domains that are new to the game. If somebody just appears on
Oh,
the scene and is
yeah.
sending out at just huge bulk emails all at once. Yeah, here we are exactly. And I think you can use this add in drip mode in the adding to automation as well, not just this email thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, and on the campaigns, like if you're going into the email campaigns, um, if you're going into the email campaigns under marketing, that will allow that too. So drip them out. Say, you know, we'll do 500. Um, oh, let's see, Susan, can you? I can't hear you. You're wondering if you can just talk. So, um, you're not muted. Look in your bottom left, Susan. Click on that. Um, so We also turned on email verification. So on your first emails that go out, oftentimes that can happen because you probably have old emails that no longer work. We had a customer that had, oh man, it was almost, when we ran email verification on it, they had, oh man, it was, I think it was over 10% of their database, the emails were no longer functional. So what, and of the recipient, it was just old data. They just had old data that collected all their people, put them into the system, send out the email, and then once the spam rate hit 5%, they call it, I sorry, the bounce rate, hard bounce, meaning the server sent the email, ooh, that email doesn't exist anymore. Bam, it flags it. Bam, it flags it. Bam, it flags it. Then what happens at that stage is once you hit 5%, then it will stop the campaign because it doesn't want you to get flagged as spam. Because, spam is indiscretionary as far as all that goes. So no, all your future emails won't be going to spam. What you'll want to do is start sending them in drip mode, and we can help you with that, by the way. Send them in drip mode so they're going out every half hour. And then what that does, especially on a new account, it'll start to warm up your domain. People start to respond, and then you start to get more, the servers that guard all this stuff. I mean, there's kind of an art to it, which is crazy, but the servers that guard all this stuff will be helpful. So actually, I'm going to show you something really quick. You know what? Let me do it in this one. Let me do it in this one. If it will work. See how this says verified? So all of the systems should have the email verification turned on. And if it's not, you can click re-verify. Okay. So let's Susan, let's jump on a call and let's look at your diagnostics and see where we're at on the spam. So, but we can get deliverability for you. So, because that's definitely a thing. Yeah, perfect. And the other thing too is if we need to make some adjustments on the back end to create a different, they call them custom domains, we can do that too. So, yeah, we can help you out with that. All right, guys. Hey, thanks everybody. Any other questions? Want to make sure we're covered. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been a great call today. Go get some automations done. And then Taylor, let's follow up with Susan. Maybe we just set up a time to jump on a call and let's just go through it, see where everything's going.
Sounds great.
Look at their domains and everything. So, okay. Talk soon. Let's go get them this week. You guys are awesome. Appreciate all you do. And let's go get some more automation, huh? All right. See ya.